Welcome to the Impact Multiplier CEO podcast. If you're a chief executive, or if you think like one, and you want to create exponentially greater impact, then this show is for you. My name is Richard Medcalf, founder of X Quadrant. I coach some of the most successful and impressive CEOs and executive teams on the planet and help them achieve extraordinary results. And no matter how successful you've been in the past, there's always a whole new level of impact available to you. So, if you're ready to play a bigger game than ever before, I invite you to join us and become an Impact Multiplier CEO.
Hi everyone, welcome back. It's Davina Stanley here again with Richard Medcalf from our new season, which is Questions to Multiply Your Impact. As you may have noticed from the last couple of episodes, Richard's got some fabulous questions that he likes to ask that really are very thought-provoking and help us really dig into where we might be going and what we might be thinking about what we're doing. So, hi Richard, welcome back.
Hi Dav, good to see you again, and looking forward to putting you on the hot seat once again as I blindside you with another powerful question. And again, I think that it's worth saying, these are questions, often the secret to success is not finding better answers, right? But actually finding better questions to ask ourselves. And I think that's often when I think what I find, that's where you get the aha moments. It's when you ask yourself a question you've never asked before. That's kind of why I like to push people with these kinds of ideas.
Kinds of questions. No, and they've been good ones. So what is your question for today? What are you going to throw at me today?
So we're getting to episode 3 in this season, and we're moving. The first 2 questions were kind of around, if you think back to the impact multipliers, they were really around releasing commitment, because the questions, what do we stand for and what's the 25-year vision? It's really kind of tapping into our kind of key driver and what we're really committed to deep down. And now we're going to move into the next impact multiplier, which is eliminating noise, okay, and bringing focus and strategy. And so the question I want to suggest today is, what's the single biggest contribution that you can make? What's the single biggest contribution that you can make?
And why is this important?
Well, I think if the 25-year vision question that we spoke about last time inspires us, this question, which is really about contribution, it focuses us. And I suppose what I should put in brackets here is it's a 12-month time frame, let's say. So I would say, what's the single biggest contribution can I make in the next 12 months? You can change that. You can make it 6 months, 24 months, whatever you want. But it's really focusing in. And there's a few reasons why it's powerful. The first is we're focusing on contribution. So when we focus about contribution, which is service, it's about adding value, then we move out of people pleasing, right? So often, we're actually kind of thinking about people pleasing, like what do we need to do? What are people expecting from us? And perhaps we're playing it safe as well. Like we're trying to think about, what have we got to lose? How do we, not rock the boat? But when we think about how can I contribute at my highest level, then I think we move from what I would call the comfort zone into the greatness zone. The greatness zone is when we're focused on others, and the comfort zone is when we're focused on ourselves. And what separates the two is the wall of fear. It's all about us. It's the self-preservation, right? And it keeps us in there. Even incredible leaders can get settled into a place where suddenly, I've built all this thing up. I've built this business. I've built this reputation. I've got to protect it. I've got the wall of fear coming right up. But when we say, how do I contribute to my customers, to society, to my team, what's the greatest contribution I can make? It takes us out of ourself and gets us playing a bigger game.
And you know what? I think I can think of several, but I'll focus on one particular example with a client over the last couple of weeks where we're talking about a CEO actually who is actually in a bit of trouble because they're so defensive and so defensive of their record and I don't know that legacy is quite the right word, but certainly their achievements and their position. Very, very protective of their position and the team that they have put in place, and they have, their favorites within that team too, particularly, that it's actually bringing them undone because the chairman is looking at this saying, actually, you don't have a growth mindset. You are not, you're not willing to stretch and grow, and you're not expecting your key people that we really need to see step up. These people are considered, their general manager level, but operating at group executive level is the feedback I'm getting from their advisors, and they're just not interested in being challenged. So I think if you're focused on the benefit that you can deliver, the contribution you can make, suddenly that fear goes away a little bit because you think,
Exactly.
How can I actually help here? How can I improve the situation, or whatever your focus is? How can I make that better for other people? And suddenly it's not all about you. It's like, how can I do that? And perhaps there's more willingness to step away and say, well, I don't have to do all of this myself, which I think sometimes very capable people can be caught in that trap too. And so, I don't know if that speaks to fear particularly, but certainly I've seen this play out in a really harmful way quite recently, this fear of stepping beyond yourself and being willing to step into, I like that, into your greatness zone.
Yeah, so
very relevant.
Yeah, so exactly. So it gets us through fear, and the other thing is it's about the single biggest, right? So we're really leaning in to the 80-20 rule here, right? We're really focusing in on what's the one big thing, right? So we're focusing. We're not looking at all the million things. We're really having to force us to ask our brain to really come up with the one top thing. The word priority was never plural for hundreds and hundreds of years. It was
okay.
what is the most. It's the priority. What is the priority? What's the number one thing? And we've kind of converted it, and now we have 50 priorities, which means nothing is priority, right? So Gary Keller, in his book, The One Thing, really bangs on about this point, right? I mean, it's a simple point, but we need to hear it time and time again. He describes it as, what's the one thing you can do such that by doing it, everything else will become easier or unnecessary? So what's the one thing that, what's the one thing you can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier and necessary? For me, it's simply, the single biggest, for me, it's the single biggest contribution you could make, in the next year. Because again, that focuses you to say, there's all this stuff, but if I could complete the acquisition of this other business as the CEO, say, that's far more important than all the tactical stuff which people come to me for. They can deal with that. If I can achieve that one thing, it's changed everything, right? If I can actually, hire my successor in the next 6 months and train him up or her up, that's perhaps that is the highest contribution, because then I'm going to be freed up to do the next thing, for example. So it's really trying to find what's that one thing which is the game changer, the needle mover. Hello, it's Richard here with a quick interlude. These conversations are all about upgrading how you think about creating impact. So here's a resource to help you do just that whilst staying fast and focused. The CEO's Checklist for Challenging Times is a quick way to enhance your thinking and detect blind spots, even when things are moving incredibly fast and you're not sure what's going to happen next. You can get this powerful checklist of 17 world-class strategies by heading to xquadrant.com/go/challenging times checklist, with a hyphen between each of those 3 last words. Now, back to the conversation.
Yes. And it's actually quite hard to identify that one thing often, isn't it? Because you can see it in retrospect, but you don't always know when you're sitting there planning, it's pretty hard to identify, well, what is that big rock? In your example there, it seems fairly easy to work out, well, if I make that acquisition, that's going to make a material impact. It's quite measurable. If I hire my successor, then also that sounds like a really tangible sort of a thing. What's your one thing, Richard?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me this, and again, I
of course I am.
I never want to prepare. I know, and I'm going to struggle, but I'm going to go for it. I think that the single biggest contribution that I can make in the next year will be to, I think, figure out ways for my clients and the CEOs who I work with, or the high performing leaders to work with, to start to benefit from each other more.
Yes,
I think that's probably a key place. So I'm considering what that might look like, what those ways are. But I think I work with some incredible leaders who are often in industries that kind of touch each other at different points and are related to each other. And I think there's a lot of experience and complementary perspectives. So if I can figure out ways to help them benefit from each other, I think that would be a great contribution.
Yeah, and look, certainly we've had a number of dinners now in our business where we've brought clients together just for the sake of, maybe once a year meeting each other and seeing what they're doing in their own teams with embedding the So What strategy that we work with. And they've really enjoyed it. They've really enjoyed seeing what other people are doing and enjoyed the networking opportunity, but also just the chance to meet some other people from different sectors. So no, I'd really encourage you to do that. I think it has all sorts of very pleasurable side effects aside of any real business benefits as well. And
so let me ask you, Dav,
what is a
single? I know it's putting us on the spot. You see, we're getting edgy. What's the single biggest contribution that you can make, Dav, in the next year?
So I think for me, it's about scale in my business. It's about working out how to go to the next level in terms of scale of impact. And there are a few different ways that I can do that. And I'm currently prioritizing and deciding what the trade-offs are around that. So there's 3 possible streams for me to focus on, and I need to prioritize one because I can't do all 3.
So let me just slow you down a second. Let me slow you down, interrupt you, and slow you down for a second on this. So again, you're not committing to it, right? But if you just think of those 3 in your head right now, what's if you literally, if I was holding a gun to your head and you had to pull the trigger on one of those projects right now, today, with what you know today, which would you go for?
Which one would I do?
Yeah.
Which one would I invest in? Well, the highest risk one is where my heart is. Yeah. And that is actually in investing in some software. That's the one that I'd really love to do. And that's the one that I'd really love to crack. But and
do you believe would that be the biggest contribution that you can make?
If we can crack that, then yes, we can. And we have a prototype. We have some work that's been invested into that. But you know what it's like. You've been in technology. You build something, and the 80-20 rule applies. 80% of the work gets done in 20% of the time, and also the other way as well. So there is quite a bit to do to make that really fly, and it's something that I'd love to see if it works. I'd love to.
And I think that comes back to that. What I'm hearing in you there a little bit is the wall of fear, right? There's these
absolutely.
There's the one which is the one which is going to add the most contribution to people, but that's the scary one, right? Which probably means you're in the right direction, in my view.
I think too that if I think of what are the trade-offs, which is part of the decisions that you make when you're prioritizing, is that to do that means that I need to pull back on some of my consulting work because I need time, and time is money in the consulting training game.
Yeah.
And so there's a tie there because the market's so strong right now. There is just so much work. My team is fairly well capped out. So, it's a big thing to say, well, no, I'm sorry, I can't help you for 6 months, and make people really wait, and just bend down the workflow. So it's a risk.
But it's easier
but
it's easier when you say, no, this is where I'm contributing at the highest, right? This is
absolutely
where I'm focusing on the biggest contribution possible. It helps kind of reframe it.
Yeah, it
so
does.
Let's say I'll take you off the hot seat, and you can kind of let that one stew for a bit. But it's quite interesting, right, to try and put it into practice. And these are not easy questions, right? If they're easy, they wouldn't be impact multiplying questions, right? They'd just be, normal questions.
They would, wouldn't they? Yes. No, excellent questions. So do you have anything to add to that? Or do you feel like you've given us a really good sense of and made us thoroughly uncomfortable around this biggest contribution?
So, I think we can leave it there. I mean, I suppose what I would say is strategy is like a lens, right? And this is a strategy question, right? When we use this question, it focuses us in on the maximum value that we can create. And I'd love to say, most people, they don't have a strategy, they have a smattergy. They just throw stuff like a smattering on the wall. They have a strategy which has got 50 points, whatever it is. But when you go, this is the biggest contribution that I'm going to be able to make over the next year, that provides a real focus, and it gets us out of ourselves.
Yes. I love that. I've really enjoyed thinking about that, actually. So thank you for pushing me a bit again. So thank you very much, everybody, for listening again today. If you'd like the notes, you can find them at xquadrant.com/podcast. And we look forward to Richard asking us another challenging question next time. And his question is, what's an 8 or less? So I'll leave you to ponder on that, and look forward to bringing it to you next time. Thanks so much. Bye for now.
Thank you. Goodbye. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Now let's talk about you. When you're in top leadership, when you're in the biggest role of your career, who supports you at a deep level as you lead others? Who helps you multiply your impact and get to the next level? If you're ready to learn more about our content, our coaching, and our community, then visit us at xquadrant.com.